No one could have ever ascend, back into oneness with Source, or to anywhere, from a system held within this much distortion, because the Divine Trinity was shut off and self-generation of energy could not occur. The distorted virus consciousness did believe that it would be successful with its plan to consume planet Earth in the end-time drama of December 2012. It had calculated during the planetary attack in Atlantis 26,000 years ago, that it would have been able to deplete the stored planetary energy supply to a low enough level by that date of December 21st, 2012, and be able to roll the planet into its reversed spin black hole system. And we could say that it underestimated the power and desire of Source to heal itself. But it didn't really underestimate Source because it was never able to know anything about Source. So its delusional thoughts, distorted thoughts, that allowed it to think that it was going to be successful in its desire of an end-time drama. And that's where the end-time drama concept came from itself, the distorted virus, feeding those distorted thought patterns into the mass consciousness a very long time ago. Yeah, it wasn't known it wasn't aware within the mass consciousness after the attack of Planetary Stargate 12, 26,000 years ago, obviously, even when the planet healed enough to allow Source to again begin incarnating on the planet. There wasn't enough energy of Source available to know much of anything like that. I mean, not even being able to nighttime dream was here yet. But during the time periods around the Jesus period and such, during that time cycle, the concept of the end-time drama was purposefully, by the virus, inserted into the hologram via the thoughts, the controlled thoughts of the people on the hologram. And it really thought that it would win, that this end-time drama would occur. And is why so many people, for all of those years, have held the thought and the fear, not even knowing what an end time was, that it was going to be the Armageddon scenario, where it was going to be the end of the world, because that's what this distorted virus thought that it was going to be able to create. Planets spin. All of creation spins. And planets spin pretty fast. That it doesn't feel like they're spinning when you're on them, when you're experiencing on them. Obviously, we know that. We're experiencing on a planet that's spinning. But they spin per their spin rate is determined by the quantum of source energy that's held within the planetary system. And that doesn't even mean that, if you have a planet that's spinning 1,600 miles an hour on 1/3 quantum, and now you have full quantum of source energy, that it's going to accelerate up to 3 times its spin or something like that. It's the particles that the planetary system is composed of, the elements and such. The spin rate of the elemental particles continued to increase, in our situation, as the planet continues to heal. The spin rate of the particles that compose the reality field itself will increasingly, they already are, but continue increasingly to spin faster and faster. And this goes into other energetic dynamics that have been talked about in other bodies of information on the planet that concerning things called Merkaba spins, spin speeds, spin rates, and counter-rotating spirals of energy, which is what black and white holes are, which is what chakras are, which is what planetary stargates are, which is what all stargates are Merkaba, black and white counter-rotating holes, if you want to call them holes, of source energy. But there's a whole lot of detail, intricate detail, in understanding things like Merkaba spin speeds, Merkaba spin rate, top and bottom Merkaba spin. There's been a lot of controversy about that within the planetary reality field. If you've looked into any of that information and the information that's been given about clockwise and counterclockwise spin and what's base electrical and base magnetic, you will discover that even what's held within the planetary system, at least 3 different sources of information saying something totally different from each other, and what they're saying is totally different from this information. In my today known truth, understanding what I see, what I've experienced within myself, I believe what I have shared with you as truth because I've experienced it. But again, you will have to experience your truth within yourself to know for certain what truth is. But even talking about trying to conceptualize things like that and manually or physically intending to do something like spin a Merkaba energetic spirals specifically per your conscious desire of creating some kind of effect with the desire of healing yourself and healing the planetary reality field. That's not going to be, at least at this time, and probably everyone is going to remember the truth of those things on their own, because it's not necessary at this moment to try to express those kind of detailed information to you that at the moment you would not know for certain whether or not it's truth. Meaning, it's not necessary to tell you that you need to go do something. Go do some kind of exercise. Go do this, go do that, to create an effect. And if you don't do that, then you're not going to be able to heal. Source is healing itself regardless. Source is healing all eternal faces of itself regardless. Regardless of what the current held belief system is, regardless of what anyone might currently believe to be true, Source is healing itself. So all of itself that is eternal will heal back into truth, regardless of what they currently believe. That's not saying if there's something you want to investigate, play with, do, not to do it. Because at the same time that Source is healing itself, its eternal faces of itself, that means that anything that you can find within the planetary hologram that might not be truth, probably isn't truth, or might be partial truth, and you might still think that it's going to assist you to heal, and so you want to work with whatever that is, whether it's the New Age movement, organized religion, some other facet within the planetary system. And you still desire to experiment, work with those kind of things, maybe not yet being healed to a point to allow you the ability of inner awareness that you have the tools within yourself to heal yourself, because your Source, eternal Source, and that fact alone means that you're going to heal, because Source is going to heal you. It may not, the type of healing that we might think of may not occur while you're still in body on the planet in this lifetime. There are things to talk about that later when we look at the personal body information as far as the eternal life grid embodied within the body, and talk about some things that I have, information that I know of as far as the future of rapid healing within the planetary system. But as far as those kind of things, if you're an eternal life form and they're not truth, if they're not what you think they are, they're not going to do anything. They just won't work at all. You may think that you're experiencing positive healing, positive results from those tools, but the process of healing is intention. 99% of the process is intention. So if you hold a desire to heal into balance, a desire to know more of yourself, more of creation, to remember Source, to connect with Source, to connect with your vertical family of consciousness, to be able to communicate with your vertical family of consciousness. The concept of DNA strand activation, and we'll look at that a little bit too when we get into the personal body anatomy stuff. Those types of concepts, if you use your focused energy of Source, your focused thoughts of energy, in a desire of healing, whatever the tools are that you're working with become healing tools, because you encrypt them with your thought, your desired thoughts of healing. So if the tools that you encounter were made their way into the hologram, we'll say, and did not actually do that for the reason that was presented that they were going to assist with healing for, then they just won't work at all. They won't work in the fashion that they were actually intended to do, whatever that intention might have been. Because most all of the information that is available to find on the planet holds distortions and twists within it, because it has come through the people that have presented it within the hologram via the virus, via the distorted thoughts of the virus, the delusional reality thoughts of the virus itself held within everything. So it's been very easy to trick the people of Earth into thinking, believing, accepting that tools, whatever those tools might be, symbol codes, chanting, toning, knowledge, information, whatever those tools might be, that it's truth. And the people, obviously, the population, the planet, has not been able to access and know truth until just recently, just now. The healing is allowing truth to return to the planet. And so, as that healing continues, the people on the planet will awaken the truth within themselves. And as they do that, and remember that their Source embodied, along with that remembering will come the memory that you have all of the tools you need within yourself to heal through Source, with Source, as Source. But it's an experience. It's a life experience. And Source desires to experience everything there is to experience. So it's not that I'm saying don't go experience it all. Go experience anything you want to. Go play with anything you want to. Because Source is going to heal you, regardless if you're an eternal life form, regardless of what you choose to go experiment with. The quantity of the energy of Source that is going to be able to incrementally increase as flows of energy within the planetary system will, as that occurs in cycles, those other types of things, whatever things are on the planet to find, discover, investigate, unaware as to the truth that might be behind them, are going to fade from the hologram. Well, what does that look like? Fade from the hologram. I don't know. We have yet to experience this wonderful event together in December 12th. So nobody can remember yet what that might experience as, what that might mean as far as those kind of concepts fade from the hologram. At the moment, my thinking is thinking that it could look something like, people just lose interest. They realize that it's not true. And so those kind of things are trashed, however they're trashed. So does it mean that it's actually going to fade from the hologram? Well, as far as disappear, no longer be visible, if you have something, a book laying on a table and it's not true, that it's no longer going to be visible. At some point, that is exactly what it will mean. But I think that there's going to be, because Source heals imbalance, it's not like Source doesn't just rip anything out of a hologram in healing imbalance. So I think that it will be a matter of those kind of things, just the people just losing interest in them, not realizing that that's not truth, and so that they no longer have interest to play with, experiment, those kind of things. But you can certainly continue. You have free will choice. Free will choice is why we're experiencing this healing process that we're experiencing. So you can experience anything that you desire to experience. But because of that, because there has been a lot of disinformation, non-truth, presented within the reality field as truth, as being truth, and the people not really being able to know what is truth and what is non-truth. It's not necessary to present more, we'll say, technology, thoughts of technology. Do this, do that, spin this, spin that, breathe this, look at that. It's not necessary to utilize those kind of things when you're healing within Source, as Source, and Source is healing you, because Source is going to heal regardless. So I'm happy within myself. I have looked at some of those kind of pieces of information concerning Merkaba spins and whatnot. It's in the grids. It's in the planetary grids. The truth of that information is there. And I have looked at some of it, made a few image analogies for myself in the process of that. But it's not necessary, at least I'm not being guided, that it's necessary to go into that detail. I'm sure that others around the planet, if they're not yet, they will begin to access that truth within the planetary grids on their own. So it's not like we have to go spin anything specifically to ensure that Source is going to heal, because the Source is going to heal regardless of what is spinning. But in the in-time drama scenario, and talking about the virus and its desire to create the Armageddon scenario and all of that drama, its distorted consciousness thought that when the attack occurred 26,000 years ago, and Planetary Stargate 12 was taken offline by 2/3 quantum. It had calculated very intelligently, it not correctly, but it has a lot of intelligence to allow it to do what I'm saying, meaning I could never have calculated this with my current level of intelligence, but it was able to calculate that it would take it 26,000 years to deplete the planetary system of the stored quantity of source energy that what still remained within the system after the 2/3 quantum drop. Not just by the planetary system running out of source energy by that time, but by the virus, working within the planetary system to feed off of the energy that was left within the planetary system, the life forms, the planet itself, and thinking that by the time that the December 21st, 2012 cycle came, that the planetary system would have been depleted of enough of the energy of source that was still within it for it to roll the planet. Kind of like rolling a ball and taking it home and saying, this is mine, I found this, I've got this now. Not the virus itself not having the ability to think of anything else within that scenario except acquiring food, energy. And so from an outward standpoint, out picturing within the hologram, that was the desire that has been told in the Armageddon story since the Jesus period, and that other faces of Source on planet have talked about in different ways, especially as that date in time approached. But as I said a minute ago, you could say that the virus underestimated the power of Source, but it didn't really, because it has never had the ability to know the power of Source. But the foundation structure of creation is eternal. So Source would never allow that to happen, even though this reality field is a false reality field. It may be a false reality field, but it still holds eternal consciousness of Source within it that dropped in quantum of energy into to create the false reality field when this attack occurred. And so just because it's not a healed reality field, in that Source created this reality field with the eternal structure of creation and said this is what you're going to look like, that's what a false reality field means, because Source did not do that. Just because the structural damage allowed for the creation of the false reality field doesn't mean that Source is not going to heal all of itself that's in that false reality field that it can. Source heals all of itself eternally in one way or another, even if that means the experimental life forms return to the state that they begin. That's still healing for that experimental life form. So Source heals all of itself eternally. So it's not going to, Source isn't just going to ignore false reality fields and say, well, that's false, that doesn't really exist, so we don't need to heal that. No, it doesn't work like that. So it estimated, the virus estimated that it would be able to do that. That it would be able to deplete the rest of it would have liked to have been able to accomplish that in 26,000 years ago when it attacked the planetary system. And you can look at that from both sides of creation. From how it outpictures in the hologram as an attack, like an aerial attack, spaceships coming in and high technology and all of this blowing up and stuff. But the reality of that is an internal attack, a virus attacking the system. And that would mean, if you're looking at it on either the planetary level or on what we perceive as our physical body anatomy level, that the attack began in the brain of the planet, the brain of the physical body anatomy. And actually the 12 point of the planet and the 12 point, the 12th chakra of the physical, the personal, individuated system, from the physical body standpoint, sits just outside what we perceive as our physical body at the top of our head. When it's there, when it's in place, when the structure, the eternal structure, is embodied the way that it's supposed to be. And so, with it have been there at that time before that internal virus attacked the structure, it attacked, the virus attacked from, when you're talking about the physical body standpoint, your a personal body, a level of people. Just talking about it on the people level. It would have been within the light and sound particles of the physical body structure of frequency band 1 and 2. That's where the virus attacked. So it could not access the 12th point chakra that sits outside of the illusion of the physical body anatomy structure. That's just looking at it from the illusion of the physical body level. But it applies to the planetary system as well. And it couldn't attack the non-polarized, the neutral charge seats anyway. When we look at the structure, we'll see the helter-skelter of what it then allowed for, the 2/3 quantum drop allowed for in changing the eternal grid to the 2/3 quantum drop grid that it's been held in for 26,000 years. There were never any eternal faces of Source created to embody this distorted virus, to assist to heal it. The distorted virus thought so. So those kind of thoughts have filtered through the virus and outpictured into the hologram. But that thought came from the distorted virus, delusional consciousness state of the virus itself, because it never knew from its original creation point the truth. It couldn't. It was created as a finite life form, a finite distorted life form with distorted thoughts, views, and delusional thinking. So to it always felt that the eternal faces of Source, and it didn't even know that they were eternal faces of Source, but that those life forms, because that's who its creator was, that to it, that's who Source was, and to it, that became the enemy, because that Source that created it quit feeding it, tried to kill it, make it die. So that's why the concept of Source becoming the enemy to this distorted life form, that's where that concept comes from. Not that the distorted life form thought that the one eternal true source of creation was the enemy, because this distorted life form has never known of that one eternal true source of creation. So the co-creators, the faces of Source as co-creators of that life form, became the enemy, and therefore everything that shone forth within the time matrix that looked like that, anything that held energy actually, became the enemy to this life form. Source has continued to send many individuated faces of itself into the polarized planes of this time matrix to heal the time matrix of this distorted virus. But it has never been to heal the distorted virus. the concept of new, higher energetic life forms birthing into the reality field, such as it began in the New Age movement, the concept of indigo races, or things like star seeds and light seeds, or light children, children of the light. All of these concepts that speak of life forms birthing into the reality field that seem to have what people think are extrasensory powers in some way. The life forms during a time cycle such as the Jesus period, the life forms that were able to recognize truth, even if they couldn't understand it all, but truth within the information that Face of Source was sharing with the people of that time period as a teacher. Those life forms thought the same thing about Jesus. That's why they deified him, and that's why we'll say the opposing force crucified him, wanted him dead, wanted him gone, wanted him out of there. It's the same kind of concept now, today, in our contemporary time cycle. And it comes from obviously not being able to remember the truth anyway, and not being able to remember the truth, to remember that those kind of people, well, we'll say people, faces of Source, that seem to have some kind of extra abilities that the rest of the planet thinks they do not have, or thinks that it's unusual. It's not the normal thing within society on the planet. It's the same concept of faces of Source carrying higher quantum of Source energy unto the planetary system to assist the planetary system to heal. And as in the different points in time when faces of Source have been able to do that, to bring more of Source energy and play a role as a teacher while they're there, it's the same thing, but the difference during this current time cycle that we're experiencing as our reality field is that the cycle of healing the planet has now entered into and has been approaching that critical point of healing to allow this wonderful event to occur, has allowed people on the planet, the consciousness on the planet, to become a little bit more aware of such things and to take notice, to pay attention. Not everyone. Some people, like a lot of people that may say about me, they're just crazy, they're nuts, they're sci-fi, whatever. And some people might say that about concepts of all of these different life forms with these seemingly extra sensory abilities birthing on the planet. Oh, it's just a hoax, it's just a tabloid thing, or that's not real, or it's just sci-fi, or somebody's pulling your leg, and that kind of stuff. Those kind of thought patterns are just from consciousness that still needs to heal into the truth. And they're going to, pretty quickly. So, it's not that Source specifically created and sent into the reality field faces of itself that could come carrying higher quantum of Source energy. That Source did that anywhere within the Milky Way time matrix system to embody the distorted virus, to heal the virus. But when you say that, when you say to heal the virus, when you think about that, from a 3D standpoint, from your own personal life experience standpoint. If someone says, I don't know, I have an infection, then the thought, the way of speaking in today's society could be something like, I'm going to go to the doctor to get medicine to heal the infection. It's just the common accepted way of thinking about something. So it's not that you're actually healing the infection when you go to the doctor and you get medicine to heal an infection. You're healing the body of the infection. And that is what is meant by, or has become kind of a twisted way of thinking, that the viruses, the virus, this distorted consciousness virus that has the planetary system has been held within, interprets that kind of thought, that those life forms, those faces of Source are created to heal itself. When you may say, Source is healing the virus. Source is not healing the virus. Source is healing the eternal life form of the virus, which simultaneously, if you think about it, is healing the virus, because it's allowing it to turn back to its original state of individual particles, energy particles of Source. So, but from the conception of the virus, and from the conception of that type of thought pattern, the virus has thought that Source was healing it into, I don't know what, maybe to be immortal. I'm not exactly sure what it thought about that. The thoughts that have been fed, that special races are called children of light. Yeah, see, I told you that without even having to read it, and so now I'm back to my notes. It is important to become aware of the truth of the beast, or the virus. It's been called the beast as well. That it is a massive virus, and try to realize that this virus had taken over the thoughts, ideas, and concepts of the entire planetary system. The concept of that the virus created within the planetary system can be understood within more truth to its reality as a cancer virus surrounding living cells to a critical mass level and trapping those living cells within the cancer virus. Cancer, as we have come to know it within the 3D hologram, is a, we'll say, very close cousin to the beast virus, to the Metatron virus, to the massive virus. It is it in smaller quantity, in smaller format, we'll say, expressing within the hologram. Because the Metatron virus has been within the hologram as well. And it being within the internal structure of the hologram has created a smaller expression of itself that we recognize as something like the cancer virus. But it works exactly the same way that cancer works in attacking living cells. And for the exact same reason that cancer does that, to survive, so that cancer virus can survive by feeding off of energy. I am asked to share with you in trying to assist an even deeper understanding of the truth of this virus, so that it can allow for a deeper understanding of the healing of the virus and the reality of what it means. Because we're perceiving the holographic reality field as truth. We perceive this reality as our life, and most of the people, the largest percentage of the people on the planet, perceive it as the truth. This is what you see, this is what you experience, this is the way life is. That is going to change rapidly as the system heals. But it's still going to change incrementally, in that there's not going to be a massive infusion of source energy to instantly allow a mass awakening and everyone within the planetary system instantly wake up and know the truth. At least I don't think it is. From what I know about the quantum of source energy and that source heals imbalance, I don't think in this moment that will occur on December 12th, 2013, when Planetary Stargate 12 comes back online. But even as I say that, I can't tell you that I know that for certain, because I don't know what that's going to experience like. We'll learn that together. But I don't think it will. I think that healing for the masses will occur incrementally, even though it occurs rapidly. And so I'm being told that it is necessary to share what I'm getting ready to share with you, to at least allow it to be open within the consciousness of the hologram, opened from the planetary body system within the hologram, so that it's more easily accessible for faces of Source, eternal faces of Source, as they heal into the truth. I'm being told that by doing this, it will make it easier, to allow it to be easier when that point of healing comes, for the eternal faces of Source to heal into the truth of the situation. So I'm being asked to share with you the last stages so far that I have experienced personally within myself in remembering more of the truth, that this distortion is a virus. So after I had awakened the knowledge, the information that I've shared with you so far about that within myself, and discuss that knowledge with vertical guidance, and through that process understand more of what has now been shared with you about this virus. After that process of healing into awareness occurred within myself, then I think maybe a couple of weeks after that process occurred is when I lived it within myself, lived the experience that I'm getting ready to share with you. And it was a waking vision, I guess, if you want to call it like that. But it was no vision. Don't use that word vision. There's an encryption, predefined encryption within the word vision. Oh, from the movie theaters, Hollywood and stuff. That allows for the thought that the vision occurs outside of the head. It's not. It's an experience within yourself. Okay, I'll just share the experience with you. On the day that this fully awakened within myself, that I had this experience within myself, on that day that it occurred, I first experienced my physical body chattering on the inside with energy, a high infusion of energy within myself. And it was kind of like when your teeth chatter when you're really cold, except it was that kind of chattering throughout my entire body. And that grew in intensity, and then my entire body outside on the outside began to involuntarily do that kind of shake. So kind of like someone that's got, what is that, palsy or something, where it just shakes. And it was energy that was causing it to do that. And I knew after the experience that the effect of the high amount of energy was affecting what we would think of as the nerves, the neurological structure of the physical body anatomy. It was affecting all of it, but the shaking inside and out was a result of the neurological structure of the system being encased within this higher quantum of energy of that moment. And then I experienced this experience. I found myself within, I'll say, a room for the moment as I start to explain this, within a room, in a bed that was a small bed for one person, such as in a hospital setting, but it wasn't a hospital bed like they have in hospitals today. It was more like a twin-size bed sitting on the floor like normal beds do. You could sit down on the bed if you wanted to and have your feet on the floor. So it was like a normal bed, but about the width of a hospital bed. And the room, everything, as far as I could see, everything in every direction was all white. Everything was pure white. But I was sitting up within this bed, and I was looking around what at the moment I'm calling a room, and everywhere that I could look in any direction, left, right, forward, and rows, not even just a straight line of vision, but rows and rows and rows were beds. And they all looked the same. They were all white. They all had, the headboard of them was kind of a carved design, like in a brass headboard on a bed might be, but it wasn't brass. And I'm not really exactly sure. It was most likely light of some kind, but it looked solid to me. I didn't reach out my hand and touch it, but everything looked solid. It didn't look like it was ghosty looking or just light shining. It all looked solid. But all of the beds were white, and every bed had white bedclothes on it, white blanket, white sheets, white pillowcases. Everything was white. I was aware that there was a wall behind my headboard of the bed, behind my head, and incrementally along this wall that went from left to right to me with no end. I could not see an end to this wall. It just went further away than I was aware in vision, because it was as if I was in this bed sitting up looking through my physical eyes, looking all around this room. But incrementally along this wall was windows. There weren't any curtains or any coverings on the windows, and all of the windows were open. There was a gentle breeze filtering through the windows, and I could see blue sky out the window, kind of like in my peripheral vision, the one that was closest to my side, my bed. I could see blue skies, and I could see that there was sunshine out there. I didn't see the sun exactly, but, I could tell that the sun was shining out there. And as I acclimated myself, I was, you wake up in this bed and you're trying to figure out how you got there. What happened? Why am I here? And you're looking around the room. And so that's the state of kind of confusion that I entered into this experience, feeling sitting up in this bed. And as I'm looking around, as far as my eyes can see, and seeing row after row after row after row of the same bed, I then became aware that there were people in all of these beds. And then I became aware that some of those people scattered throughout the room at different locations around the room were sitting up in their beds and rubbing their eyes and looking around in a dazed look. And there wasn't any verbal communication that occurred. It was obvious to me now. It was via telepathy. But it was as if I was hearing what these people were saying, thinking, as they were sitting up in their beds and rubbing their eyes. And they were saying the same thing I was. When I stepped into this experience and found myself in this bed, as rubbing your eyes and feeling delusional and wondering where you are and what's happened. How did you get here? What's occurred that you can't remember occurred? As far as I could see, in every direction was beds of people. And periodically around the view of my vision were people sitting up and doing the same thing. And so now I can tell you that a room, you could think of it as a room, and I realize that now, after the fact, I realize that in my experience, I experienced it as a room with physical beds and the way that we would perceive such in our current reality setting. I know now, after the experience, that was an analogy of experience to allow me the reality of, to allow my physical body, the energy composing, creating my physical body, to allow me the physical experience of the truth of the virus. And I also became aware that there were, I guess, within the concept of trying to bring this into the reality of the hologram, you could call them nurses. In every row that I looked, a row of beds, there were nurses, what seemed to me like nurses, periodically, as you're looking down the rows, down the beds from where you're looking, from your sitting point there. But I say nurses because that's kind of the concept that I had with that. You're in what you're thinking is a hospital ward, and so that implies that if there's people walking around the floor of the hospital ward, that it would be nurses or maybe doctors. But I had the perception that it was the concept of nurses. But then I came to realize that the nurses, there was never any clear facial outlines, or to say, that is a person that I perceive as a human people, like we see people here on Earth, with features, wearing a nurse's uniform and going about nurses' tasks and that kind of thing. And when I realized, I'm not exactly sure within this experience when I realized this, but at some point within this experience, I realized that even the analogy of the nurses was an analogy to allow me to understand that every life form, every person in every bed, in however huge that hospital ward was being attended by Source. It was as if Source was going around from bed to bed to bed to bed and giving medicine, giving the medicine, the antibiotic for the virus. And even though wherever the reality of this exists, it does exist within frequency bands 1 and 2 of this false reality field, but not within the reflected light manifest particles that we're perceiving as the hologram. So that means it exists within you, within the planetary structure, within the energetic anatomy that allows that manifest hologram to shine forth so that we can experience it. And so that means that it doesn't necessarily require beds and a wall with windows and blankets and sheets and pillowcases and those kind of things. But that was an analogy to allow me to embody it more, to embody the experience as I would embody the experience here within this holographic reality field. And as I sat there in the bed and looked around the room and looked at everything that I've shared with you so far, I became aware as I'm sitting there within the bed doing this, that the reality of the faces of Source, the individuated, eternal faces of Source that have continued to incarnate into this false reality system to heal the system. Faces of Source incarnating here, bringing Source energy unto the system to heal the system. That the reality of that process occurring is as if, we'll say as if, you, as a face of Source, going to the hospital ward and saying, I'm ready to birth into the distortion now, to take my quantum of energy into that distorted reality field, to play my role in assisting healing this distortion. And lying down in one of these beds and consciously, what we might think of now as doing something like meditation or praying, where you're in your space and you go within yourself to your God space, whatever you want to allow yourself, however you want to allow yourself to feel that it looked like that. This person, this face of Source coming in, getting in a bed, lying down, covering up, and looking like they're going to sleep. And sending their consciousness into the distorted reality field of this system. And then from that point, going through what we perceive as the birthing process within the system, birthing as a baby within the system and having the life experience, bringing their quantum of Source energy unto the planetary system as Source to heal the planetary system from the virus. And the truth of this was, needless to say, a shock on my physical body system, a shock as far as the energy, the Source energy opening up within myself to allow me to experience that and to then be able to share it with you, offer it to you in however abstract a way it sounds. There's no way that could be possible. It's not possible. If that's how it seems to you right now, that's fine. There's no way any of this can be possible, but everyone will heal into their truth when they heal into their truth. And so, as healing occurs, it's quite possible I can't say for certain that it will, because I don't know for certain that it will be the same type of experience as healing occurs for the eternal faces of Source that are on planet. But the truth of that concept will return with the healing when the memory returns. And so all of these people, we'll say, faces of Source, people lying in all of these beds within this huge, no ending, no walls to define any kind of size to the room, hospital ward. It's as if lying there in a comatose state. A comatose state where the physical body has very little activity going on within it, where the body doesn't move. It just stays in one place. It doesn't move. Yet the consciousness, the thoughts within that body are not in a comatose state. Well, they're not in a comatose state in that setting. In that setting, as lying in that bed, looking like you're asleep, it's as if the body itself looks like it's in a comatose state, but the consciousness, the thoughts inside of the head of the body, the way that we think of thinking inside our head, are not, it's still active, it's still consciousness, it's still awake, aware, and thinking, and focusing on healing. And then, as I said, I saw the process of then focusing, sending your consciousness into this false reality field, incarnating into a baby form, birthing, and experiencing the life experience. That aspect, the truth of that, is that all of those people in all of those beds, myself sitting up in that bed, realizing this truth within me, is what we have come to call here in our awareness the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is not a organic part of the original creation from Source, from the center point of Source, but is a part of Source that comes into play, comes into being within the creation process when such distortion occurs as life forms, consciousness, energy of Source, getting trapped, finding themselves trapped within this kind of situation, within a reality field where such distortion has occurred to allow Source energy to be depleted, cut off to such a critical mass level as 2/3 quantum loss of Source energy. And that the subconscious part of ourselves that we have, even though we don't really understand for very much about that concept within this reality field, there's still a mass conscious awareness within this reality field of the concept of the subconscious mind. This reality field doesn't even really, is not yet, is healing to remember what conscious is. What does consciousness mean? So then the thought that the mass consciousness of the planet is aware of a subconscious mind, seems just as abstract as a conscious mind. We think of ourselves as conscious when we're awake, when we're not lying in our bed sleeping at night, when we wake back up each day and we go about our life experience. we think of that as conscious awake. You're conscious now. You're back in your body. But that doesn't really present to us a definition of what is consciousness, because consciousness is energy, the energy of source, which is thought. Consciousness is thought. And this healing into start to remember the truth of what consciousness is just now occurring. Well, it's gotten to a point of healing that the planetary system is just now starting to heal, to remember that truth. So the concept of a subconscious mind, what does that mean? Subconscious mind. What that means is a level below, underneath, lying within the conscious mind. And the conscious mind, what we think of as the conscious mind that we're utilizing to experience this reality field, not the brain, not the physical brain within the physical body anatomy, but the conscious mind that's outside of your body. Now, the 3-point seat of our incarnate identity in the vertical pillar to source is supposed to be the conscious mind, the mental mind that, well, it is. I mean, it's supposed to be expressing. Us here in this reality field, experiencing this reality field, are supposed to be connected to that level of our anatomy in entering this reality field, with that 3-point seat being in control. That's us in that 3-point seat. That's why it's called the incarnate identity. With that 3-point seat being in control of our energy that we put into the hologram to allow us to experience it. But the distortion that has occurred within the eternal life grid structure, and when we look at that in a little while, still yet, I know, I haven't got there yet. When we look at that and compare it to the 2/3 quantum drop grid structure, and we'll see then what that has done to not only the planetary structure, but to the personal anatomy and structure, because it's occurred within the planetary structure, is the disalignment of the internal system, the chakras and the planetary stargates, which are the same thing on a planetary level. The disalignment that has occurred, which has taken all of those energetic points out of alignment with our 3-point incarnate identity, mental, mind, awareness. So this is why within this type of situation, a subconscious mind is created and becomes part of the experience of healing from such a distorted reality, false reality field. And so it's like the subconscious mind becomes a bridge in between your awareness within the holographic reality field and your 3-point seat of consciousness, because of the distortion not allowing you to reach, connect to, open a clear line of communication with that part of your anatomy. And that's healing. It's healing now as all of this massive healing is unfolding within the planetary system. And I'm being told that a lot of people, I don't know how many, I don't know what a lot of people are, that a lot of people will experience something similar to that. December 12th, I don't know if it's December 12th, but soon, very soon. So if it's going to be on December 12th, I don't know. Maybe it could be a week after December 12th. but soon, very soon, a lot of people are going to have experienced enough healing to allow them to awaken to truth, awaken incrementally to truth within themselves. And at some point, they're going to reach this type of experience, whether it expresses as a hospital ward with an uncountable number of beds. I don't know if it will express to you however you experience it, however it unfolds as truth for you. But at some point, the awareness of that is going to return to you. And it is the subconscious mind awareness. So it was rather, I didn't even know until after experiencing that day. It was an extreme energetic day for me, to say the least. I didn't know until a couple of days later the information about it being the subconscious mind, and even what the subconscious mind is, or what I've shared with you about that so far. I thought that it meant that we were all, when I first had the experience, I thought that it meant we were all laying in a comatose state and getting injections of antibiotics from source to heal this virus. And actually, it is that. It is the comatose state of consciousness is what we think is normal experiencing within this reality field. But that level of finding yourself within that situation, in this hospital ward, in a bed, and everything's white, that depicts the awakening within myself to the subconscious mind. And that it's not that the subconscious mind is, distorted. It's just that it's been created as kind of a bridge. It is a bridge, but a bridge that wouldn't normally exist as part of your anatomy if the distortion of the virus hadn't occurred. So, yeah, okay. I'm done with that now. I've relived it again within myself as I've been sharing this with you, and it's kind of a weird feeling. So I'm finished with that, and we're ready to move on. So that's an analogy for understanding the subconscious mind. Where does that come from?